the room with us. Thank you all for being here as well. We wanted to offer this as an opportunity for education and some good information for our students, but also for our alums. I want to invite all of you to stick around after the presentation. We're going to have a little reception out in the hallway, so please grab a cookie or some coffee on your way out. And thank you very much again for being here with us. I want to say a few words about our speaker. And try not to blow into the microphone. There we go. Don Asher is an internationally recognized author and speaker on the topics of career and higher education. In America, he is well known as America's job search guru, with career books including the groundbreaking Cracking the Hidden Job Market. He wrote the best-selling guide to getting into graduate school, titled Graduate Admission Essays, and he works on educational access and equity issues nationwide. He's also written The Overnight Resume, How to Get a Job Anywhere, Who Gets Promoted, which was named Career Management Book of the Year, and Asher's Bible of Executive Resumes, which is the largest compendium of executive resumes ever published. He is co-author of a book on elite scholarship, the best scholarships for the best students, and he's the author of 12 books in all, available in 7 languages. Asher was named a career mastermind by the award-winning web portal Quint Careers, and he has been the career columnist for US Airways, education columnist for MSN, and a contributing writer for 7 online career research sites, as well as 4 publications. He's been quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, New York Times, USA Today, Boston Globe, The Globe and Mail, Salary.com, US News and World Report, Forbes, Fortune, Money Magazine, Men's Health, and many, many other publications. Asher is just now completing the PhD of Human Development from Fielding Graduate University, and he holds a Master of Arts in Human Development from Fielding Graduate University, a Master of Human Resources and Educational Development, Organizational Development from the University of San Francisco, and the Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy Religion from Reed College. He is a featured speaker over 150 times per year, including recent lecture tours in Canada, Mexico, India, China, South Korea, Morocco, Ireland, and Germany, where he spoke about international career trends and the borderless career. Asher lives in Northern Nevada and in American Airlines Seat 3A. This is Don's 7th time at the University of Dayton, and we are grateful to bring him back every year. He always brings us new, fresh ideas and a great perspective on the job hunting world. So please join me in welcoming Don Asher.
Thank you. So my task in an hour is to change the way that you believe the job market works, because I believe that it's a life skill of tremendous value to know how it works and tremendous cost not to know how it works. So I'm gonna just throw out some data for you, and we'll look at some slides later, but let me just start out with some data. A posted opening on the internet draws 383 applicants, according to a recent study, on median, which means that half of the posted openings draw more than 383 applicants. The amount of competition on a posted opening is crushing, and the only people hired through posted openings are perfect. When I say they're perfect, I mean they're perfect. They're not perfect with a comma or perfect with a but, they're perfect. You could hire somebody that's left-handed and whose last name starts with a vowel if you wanted to, by making posted openings. There was a bar in San Francisco that posted an opening for a bartender on Craigslist, the most boring job search ads in the whole world. 400 people applied for this job. It's a below minimum wage job because it's a tip job. And they were smart enough to write to every single person who applied and said, we're going to have auditions at 4 o'clock. Then their PR person called the local news television stations and said, we're going to have a riot at 4 o'clock. Come and film it. And sure enough, they did. I saw this on television in San Francisco. There was this riot, 400 people trying to get this job as a bartender, and the television announcer stuck a microphone in the woman's face that got it, and she said, why did they select you? And she said, I have no idea. I was leaving when the bouncer grabbed me and said, you're next. And I was hired. And so 399 people went down there and were disappointed, and 1 person was happy. That's the posted job market. That's the overt job market the competition is crushing. These databases, just so you know, can't tell you from a dog I made a resume for a dog once named Rex K9. Okay, here was his name, Rex K9. I'll show you how I spelled it. So it was Rex K9, just like this. But before you think, well, that could be a person, sure. Well, under salary objectives, I wrote kibbles. And under skills, I wrote able to bite intruders on the buttocks if they fail to show company identification. That was the first 3 lines of this resume. You could not know that this was not a dog if you actually looked at the resume, and I sent it to the top 50 corporate hiring sites based on Weddle's analysis. Weddle's is a company that analyzes web stream traffic for job search, and I received about 20 polite little letters back. Dear Mr. 9, we're carefully comparing your backgrounds with our needs, and we'll be back in touch later in the season. Okay, if they can't tell you from a dog, they can't tell anything special about you at all. So applying online has a very limited success ratio. I was on a radio show in early spring, like February or March, in Los Angeles. One caller after another. The radio show was, I graduated from college and I can't find a job. One caller after another called in and said, I graduated from college and I can't find a job. I'm a good person. I have a 3.8 GPA. I had 2 internships. Just one after another. Every single caller had the exact same problem. I would say, how are you looking for work? And they would say, well, I am diligently searching and scouring the internet every day for jobs that would be appropriate for me and customizing my resume and my cover letter for every application that I see, and I'm applying. I'm applying night and day. I said, okay, that's exactly what you're doing wrong. You're staying in your house, in your jammies, applying for posted openings that are drawing 500 to 700 applicants every single time. Put on a suit, get out of your house, go have coffee with somebody, and you can find a job. Now, I want to make a point. I'm going to ask you to do things differently, and they're going to make you uncomfortable. It's easy to sit in your jammies and apply for posted openings in the middle of the night. Doing a properly constructed hidden job market search is going to make you uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, if you do it right, it'll make you uncomfortable, and if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. Okay, so you have to embrace this idea that I'm going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to have a positive outcome. Now, and you have to also get comfortable with a high failure rate. Okay, so all the stuff I'm about to teach you has about a 90% failure rate. But before you get excited by that, why don't you count the failure rate of applying 400 times for maybe getting an opportunity, because that failure rate is 0.25%. That's a whole lot worse failure rate. Am I making sense so far? Okay, I want to yell at you a little bit because I don't have you for long. If I had you for a couple of days, I'd be nicer. But I'm trying to make some points that are uncomfortable making. How big is the hidden job market? It's between 55 and 80% of all jobs that change hands. Okay, I run surveys all the time, and so about 20% of people can find a job online and about 80% of people cannot. And I actually mean to use those words that way. It's not 20% do and 80% don't. It's 20% can and 80% cannot. If you're trying to make a career change, a job change, you're trying to graduate from college and find a job, trying to graduate from grad school and find a job, the online opportunities are extremely difficult and unlikely for you, leading you to be in that 80% who cannot. The 20% who can are kind of easy to identify. They used to be a high net worth taxation accountant, and they want a job as a high net worth taxation accountant. That's the kind of people that get jobs online. If a high net worth taxation accountant wants to switch over into wealth advisory, then they cannot find a job online. They'll have to find a job in the hidden job market. So the hidden job market is the biggest part of the job market, 55 to 80%. I have the research for this, and I'll show it to you in just a moment. But it's also the easiest part of the job market. It's the place where you've got 6 competitors instead of 383. So I will now draw you 2 very highly sophisticated diagrams that illustrate things you need to know about the hidden job market. They're both MBA diagrams, and I realize that you're not all MBA students, so just write all this down real carefully, and you can look at it later and maybe extract some meaning from it. Would that be okay? All right. Okay. All right. So here we go. Okay. Okay, are you ready? This is going to take like half a page, this first drawing. Okay, so here's a manager. Are you getting this down? There's a manager and she's happy. Okay, as long as she's happy, does she have a job for you? No, she doesn't. Happy people don't need you. So they don't have a job for you. Remember this when you date. Don't date happy people. They don't need you. They're not going to be loyal at all. So, but look what happens here. We know this about people that used to be happy. Eventually, that's my version of becoming unhappy. Okay. There it is. Okay, they're going to become unhappy, and this is the beginning of opportunity for you. And once she becomes unhappy, here's the weird thing. She'll be unhappy up to 18 months before she decides to do something about it. And that's the beginning of opportunity for you. She's in a company. By the way, you guys, if you're interacting with HR, you're engaging with an organization after all the opportunities that are sweet have passed. Not to say anything against any of you HR people out there. I'm an HR person myself. But let's say that the entire chance to engage the company for the sweet spot is over by the time HR is involved. Because this is a line manager. This is not an HR manager. This is a line manager, unhappy. So she'll be unhappy, and then she's going to decide to hire somebody. And this is a light bulb, and we'll have these red bands come out of it to represent the fact that this light bulb has gone off. And here's her face happy again because she has decided to hire somebody to make herself happy. Immediately after she makes that decision, she will do nothing. Okay? She'll do nothing for at least 2 weeks. Okay? And then she'll do something kind of interesting. She'll watch an internal, informal effort to fill that assignment. And that looks kind of like this. It's really internal. It's kind of sloppy. She'll now look at resumes that come in or listen to that, about a friend of a friend thing. And she'll go like this. Hey, isn't your old boyfriend about to come back from wherever he was? Do you think he could help us out? What about your mom? Isn't she about to get out of jail? Can she think she could come down here and help us with the stuff we're doing? So that's an internal, informal search. And a tremendous percentage, and I don't like to be sloppy, so I want to be careful what I say. In a tremendous percentage of cases, that results in a placement, and this job is completely invisible to the entire marketplace. The job is filled without appearing anywhere, even once, not an iota. Am I making sense? Okay, now, when I say that the hidden job market is 55 to 80% of jobs, I'm not saying that those jobs are not advertised. This is an extremely important point I'm trying to make. They may be vigorously advertised, but the person who's selected is not selected out of the pile of people who apply because of the advertisement. And I'm going to give you some different reasons why that is so. But right now, we're just working on this internal informal. If that results in a placement, we're done. Now, if it doesn't, they're going to do something really nefarious. They're going to write a job description. And when they write a job description, it will never match you. Okay, so when they write a job description, you have already failed in this process. There's no one on this planet more optimistic than an HR officer writing a job description. I saw not too long ago somebody forwarded me a job description. It said, master's degree preferred in scientific area, pay $17,000 a year. And they were serious. They were going to find somebody. I bet they hired somebody already. Then a guy 2 years ago, he sent me a really interesting announcement. He said, Don, read the announcement and then read down to the bottom of my email. So the announcement was some highly technical stuff. I didn't get all of it, but it said 5 years of experience required. Then I scroll down to the bottom and he says, my team invented this technology 18 months ago. There's no one in the universe with 5 years of experience with this background. So that's what happens when they write a job description. It's not going to be you. All right, so then they're going to post it, and this is the beginning of the troubles. Because once they post it, normal numbers are 300 to 500 people apply. This is horrible. You do not want to be here, which means you need to be here or here or here. Where's the sweet spot? Yeah, right here. She's made the decision to hire, but she's not doing anything about it yet. That's the sweet spot. It's you versus nobody. Over here, it's you versus about 6 people. Right over here, it's you versus 300 to 500. And right here, it's you versus the ideal candidate. That's bad. That's really, no one's ideal. Over here, it's you versus inertia. That's not too bad. Okay, you just go in and say, I am the solution to the problem you have not decided to solve yet. So the point being that you have to get inside these organizations, before the posting level, and you have to get people to talk to you. So I'm going to teach you all the forms of interview that will allow you to do that here in just a moment. They're very different interviews than applying for a posted opening. But this little simple drawing is called Where Jobs Come From. And this is where jobs, newly created jobs, come from. This is exactly where they come from. They don't come from HR. That's after they failed. That's where they come from HR. Okay, so did you get all that? Now, how can you do that with a keyboard? You can't. Do you just draw it, or?
I can make emojis on here.
Okay. So you made these? Okay. All right. You today. Okay, that's one. Now, this other drawing starts to lead into. And don't forget to tell me to do the different kinds of interview. Okay. So this other drawing is the other MBA drawing that I have for you. Very sophisticated. Are you ready? Okay, this is, and I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. This is resume sorting software. Okay, that's a funnel, and 10,000 resumes go in at the top. It's going to take too long for me to draw all these, so can we just trust each other that there's 10,000 coming in at the top? Just say yes. It'll take too long, I think. All right, and so here's the boss's desk, and out of that funnel comes 4 resumes. The boss is not going to look at 10,000 resumes. She's going to look at 4 resumes. Now, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to teach you how to get through resume sorting software. I'll tell you why. It's a hobby of mine. They invent a screen, and I invent a workaround. So bear with me here. This 10,000 to 4, this is very normal numbers, by the way. If you work with Indeed or you work with Monster or Career Builder, these are very normal numbers. So your chances of getting through there are about 2,500 to 1. I'm about to change that ratio for you. You take the posted opening, and you take every noun out of it, and you put it in your resume. The score systems that they use to search for are based on nouns, not adjectives, not verbs. So if there's a noun in the announcement, you put it in your resume. If the noun is unusual, odd, or rare, you put it in your resume a lot. Why? Because it's going to have a higher point system. A word like juvenile is going to have a very low point system because that's a very common word. But a word like nosocomial has only one meaning. It's medical and it's obscure. So if you see nosocomial in an advertisement, you put it 4 or 5 times in your resume, not just once. And how do you do this? It's a matter of being clever, you guys. If you can't figure out a way to put it in there without telling a lie, then you're not smart enough to be hired using my system. So don't use it. But, you know, you can do a lot of really clever things. You can even put the word keywords down at the bottom of your resume and put the entire posted opening right after the word keywords. And then I will tell you something that MBAs do that you should not do, and I think is absolutely nefarious, and you should not do it. You can put the ad in white letters that disappear into the paper. Yeah, isn't that cool? Okay, verbum sat sapientiest. I told you these are workarounds to get past screens. Now, I actually have a very high principle, you guys. Never tell a fib in a job search. If you're telling a fib, you're just not creative enough. Suppose they have an advertisement that says, must be fluent in Mandarin Chinese. Well, then I would put languages, basic Spanish, but someday I would like to be fluent in Spanish and fluent in Chinese and fluent in Mandarin and fluent in Shanghainese and fluent in Cantonese. And so the software is not that smart, you guys, and so it reads fluent in Chinese. Now, before you think to yourself, well, this is terrible, I would never do that. Well, maybe you should, for a very simple reason. Humans hire humans. And if you're right for that job, a human will make that decision. So I get your resume, here you are claiming to be fluent in Chinese, and I figure out what you've done, and I say, my gosh, this guy's not fluent in Chinese, but he's really cool anyway, so I'm going to call him in for an interview. Okay, so it's not going to create magic. It's not going to get you hired where you wouldn't have been hired. But if you don't fully match something, it'll cause a human to actually decide to take a look at you anyway. Am I making sense? Next, on this whole thing of getting through these funnels, and I really shouldn't teach you this at all. I'm going to get hate mail tomorrow from HR officers. But let's say you're applying for a job in Chicago, and here you are in Dayton, Ohio. Well, you put no street addresses on resumes anymore. Okay, so if you have your street address on your resume, go home and take it off. And for all of you that are over 30, if you have more than 10 years of experience on your resume, go home and take it off. Okay, you go back 10 years and you stop. But you're applying for a job in Chicago, you put your name, Donald Asher, you write Chicago. Then you put your cell phone, and then you put your email address. Okay, and then you take the cities off of all of the experiences, and so you apply for jobs in Chicago. You get a call from somebody in Chicago. Hey, you know, this is XYZ Corp. We're in Chicago. We like your resume. We'd like you in the office tomorrow at 9. You say, well, I'd love to do that. I'm down here in Dayton. I have some other obligations. Dayton? I thought you were living in Chicago. Well, I am as soon as you hire me. Okay, so what you're doing if you do this is you're showing the intention to live in Chicago. And you are also, and I do want to make this point, foregoing your right to ask for relocation assistance. That's the trade-off that you make. Looking like a local means you can't turn around and then say, I got to move my house, I got 3 kids, I got 2 boats, 2 motorcycles, 2 cars. So you're making a certain trade-off in order to be able to look like a local. And for any of you that have been on the market a while, that's a very good trade-off. That's a very good trade-off. So that's how you get through the resume sorting software for the proud privilege of being one of these 4 people at the odds of 2,500 to 1. Now, here's the boss. Here she is. She went to lunch and she had a martini. She didn't get the memo that the 90s are over. That's why she looks so happy. See her? Okay? And she starts to look at those resumes. There she is looking at them. And she knows something about those resumes that everybody in HR knows, and that's this. The lie rate on management level resumes is 25%. 25% of resumes have an outright lie on them. And these are good-looking resumes, too. So a lie is you change the date, you change the title, you made an educational claim that cannot be sustained, or you made a salary claim that it cannot be substantiated. Okay, those are the 4 big lies. I'm not talking about exaggerations here. I'm talking about lies. So she's looking over here and she's saying, oh, man, one of those is a liar. I just don't know which one it is. And right at that moment, the door opens. And your friend Stacy comes in. Stacy went to lunch with the boss. There's the door. See it opening? And she's got your resume, and she sets it right there and says, I went to school with this woman. She's great. This resume is of a fundamental different nature than these resumes. They can have better skills over here. They can look much better, but this resume is vouched for. And this, my friends, is the #1 source of new hires for corporations in America today. It is a referral by an existing employee. If you would like a job, you need to get your friends to be hauling your resume down and handing it to their boss. I have some research, and I'll show it to you in a minute. If you can get 10 of your friends to introduce you to their boss, you have a 2/3 chance of getting a job. This is massively different data than 383 to 1. Massively different data. Now, that's a very interesting statistic, so I almost need to say it 4 times. If you can get 10 of your friends to introduce you to their boss, you have a 2/3 chance of getting a job offer. I can't get to a 100% chance because some of you may be duds, but I can certainly work with the 2/3 of you that are good. Okay. A lot of information in this one. A lot of information. It looks simple, but it's not. Okay. Okay. Now, let's talk about the 3 things that you need to know about all job change. Let's cover those 3 things. And then I want to talk about those types of interviews. Don't forget, okay? Don't forget. And then we'll talk about 100 plus 100. And then we'll talk about the zombie horde. Okay. All right. So the only 3 things that you need to know about job change. Am I doing okay on getting the PowerPoint up?
Yeah.
Still there, right? Okay, good. Okay, so the only 3 things you need to know about job change are, #1, you get jobs by talking to people. So anything that you do that causes you to talk to people speeds up your search, and anything that you do that keeps you from talking to people slows down your search. So what does that say about applying for jobs online, using your laptop to communicate with a database? There's no people. And so you're not using people. So that's not effective. Use the internet to talk to people. That's a fantastically good tool. So when I say talking to people, that means emailing, Skyping, making appointments with them, having coffee with them. Anything that you do that puts you in front of a human being is advancing your job search. And anything that you do that communicate with a database puts you in that shallow end of the pool with the massive competition instead of the deep end of the pool where the sweet jobs are. So In the end, if I were to ask you something about this class later, like tomorrow, what did you learn yesterday? I want the very first thing that you say to be, you get jobs by talking to people. Okay, did you learn anything tonight at this workshop? What did you learn?
Get jobs by talking to people.
That's great. That's great. Okay, when I ask you that tomorrow or next week or in 2 years, I want that to be the very first thing that you say. This, my friends, has become the byword for Christopher Newport University's Job Center. They have it like a banner across the front of their office. You get jobs by talking to people. When I went there to speak, they had a big sign that said you get jobs by talking to people, which they put on an easel like a work of art. And they kept pointing at it throughout the talk anytime I would say that you had to talk to somebody. So tomorrow, somebody says, what did you learn last night? What are you going to say?
Talk to people to get a job.
That's good. That's good. Good. Number 2, are you ready for the 3 things that you need for a successful job search? You need 100 leads at all times. Now, most people run a job search on a very modest set of leads, 10, 12. You need 100. Why? First of all, I'm going to show you in a moment how to build a set of leads. Oh, quick, ask me what a lead is.
What is a lead?
A lead, that's a good time you asked for that, okay? A lead is a posted opening, which I have nothing against posted openings as long as it takes up only 10% of your time. It's a company in your area. It's a list. It's a friend of a friend. It's people. It's a rumor, or it's an idea. So I want you to have a robust concept of what a lead is, but you need 100 of them. You need 100 leads, not because we have 10 fingers in a base 10 number system. You need 100 leads so that you will always have something to do. How many hours a week do people look for work in America who are looking for work full time?
30 minutes.
That's a good guess. It's a trick question. I happen to know the answer, so I'm going to tell you. 6 hours a week. People who are looking for work full time only look for work 6 hours a week. Now, the state of California, this is from my research, the state of California came out with a study that said they're looking for work 12 hours a week. And I was dumbfounded. I said, 12 hours? That's completely different than my findings. And so I was thinking about it, and I realized one day, no one's telling the state of California they didn't do anything last week. They're not going to say, I did nothing, zip, nada, zero, because you'll lose your unemployment. So they always said 1 hour. Okay, and that was enough to tilt from 6 to 12. It's 6 hours a week. You guys, there's 168 hours in a week. There's 162 hours left after you're looking for work full time. So you need 100 leads so you'll have something to do. Because after you apply to 25 places, you need something to do for the next day, because you can fly 25 places on Monday morning. So that's one reason you need 100 leads. But you need 100 leads for another kind of weird reason. Okay. If you have 12 leads, you're going to think they're precious. Oh, I have only 12 of these. I couldn't possibly do anything rude or odd. But if you have 100 leads, it's totally different. I have 100 leads. I think I might piss this guy off if I call him again. I don't care. I got 99 more. Okay? I'm going to call him again. Because I can do that because I have 99 more. It's an important point of discipline to have 100 leads. I'll say it again, 100 leads is a friend of a friend, a list, an alumni association, everyone who ever went to Dayton. Those are all leads. If you're short of leads, use hoovers.com and linkedin.com. Hoovers.com is a database. Your main library in town is definitely a subscriber to Hoovers.com. Hoovers has every organization in the United States with a credit rating in it. And you can search it with a robust thing called SIC codes. SIC stands for Standard Industry Classifications. So if you're a computer engineer and you want to find every computer engineering group in the state of Ohio with more than 4 employees that's less than 5 years old, Hoovers can help you do that. And I have a hot tip for you guys. Don't figure Hoovers out. I figured it out, but I work at this. Go find some reference librarian in some basement with no windows and walk up to her and say, can you help me find something on Hoovers? And she's going to go, yes, I can. I love to do this. That's what reference librarians live for, you guys. Come into there with some weird request and let them help you build a list. Okay. So Hoovers, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has an extremely robust alumni feature now. You can find all the University of Dayton alumni that work in Hong Kong in finance. I mean, it is extremely robust now. So I want you using those 2 tools to build out your lists. And if we get to it, we'll talk a little bit at the end about some ways to build your networking list out of human beings. But I'm teaching you the ways to get up to 100 as fast as I possibly can. Now, how many of the three main things you need to know about job change have we covered? I think we've only covered two of them. The third one is you look for work in channels. Now bear with me while I explicate this. Looking for work in channels means that you look for a certain type of job. You don't look for posted openings. Posted openings are kind of the fool's gold of job change. So if you're always looking for posted openings, you're always going to be a newbie. You're always going to be the first person this time you've thought about this. So you hear about a job in commercial real estate, and you run over and you say, commercial real estate, I've been in a lot of buildings. I'd be perfect at this. And then you hear about a job in corporate education, and you run over and say, corporate R&D, I'd be perfect at this. I've been a student my whole life. Okay? That's really not very persuasive. And that's what people actually do when they're always looking for a posted opening and they're always a newbie. Looking for work in channels means that you keep talking to people about the same idea over and over and over again. Now, how many channels? The research is that people that look for more than 4 different types of jobs definitely have a longer job search than people that look for 3 or fewer types of jobs. So you're allowed to have, in my opinion, 3 or fewer. You can't be running all over the place with different kinds of targets. Now, bear with me here. Once you have a target, you run it down and kill it, or you get a job. Those are the only 2 things that can happen. Running it down and kill it means that people say, you'll never get this. You're not right for this. Give it up. It's not going to happen. Or you get a job. Or you decide you don't like it. I guess we'll say there's 3 outcomes. You run it down and kill it, decide that that's not ever going to happen. You discover that you don't like it, or you get a job. That's looking for work in channels. Am I making sense? Let me give you some examples. I had a mid-career woman come into my office and said she wanted to work with animals. And she didn't find meaning at work anymore, and she wanted to work with animals. I said, great. Okay, we're going to send you out to talk to people who work with animals. And you know how to get everybody in the world to talk to you guys? Tell them you don't want a job with them. It's fascinating. I don't want a job with you. I just want to ask 6 questions. Okay, I'll talk to you. I want to ask you 6 questions about my job search. Oh, I'm too busy. Couldn't possibly meet with you. Okay? That magic little sentence, I'm not applying for a job with you. I just want to talk to you about, I only want information. Okay? So I sent her out to talk to people about working with animals. And she came back in 5 weeks and said, you know, Don, I don't think I want to work with animals. I said, why? She said, well, the only people that make any money are scientists and veterinarians. Everyone else is working for minimum wage, or frankly, a lot of them are volunteers. Now, I knew this, but she needed to find it out for herself. So she went out, spent 5 weeks. That's an example of tracing it down and killing it. That's not a go for her. She said, I will try to find a job with more meaning in middle management. Had another guy interested in private equity and investment banking. Okay, so I said, okay, great. Which one do you want to look at first? He said, I want to look at private equity first. It was hot at the time. It's still hot, frankly. I said, great. Go out and look for jobs in private equity. Make people talk to you. Buy some cocktails. Buy some coffee. See what you find out. He came back in about 6 weeks and said, Don, I don't want to work in private equity. I don't think I can make it go. I said, what did you find out? He said, I'm not rich enough to come in as a partner, and I'm not young enough to come in as an analyst, and there's nothing in the middle. He said, there's no place for me in private equity. I said, okay, try investment banking. Investment banking has a plethora of assignments, and he is now working in investment banking and constantly sends me little stock tips. So far, they've all been good. We've been doing pretty well together. So that's an example of looking for work in channels. It's a different way of doing it. Don't worry about whether they're advertising. In particular, those of you who are young in here, an entry-level hire is a no-brainer, no big deal. If they want you, they can just decide to hire you. Frankly, the coffee service on any floor will cost more than hiring an entry-level person. If you can get in front of them and they're in that nothing stage and you look like a solution to a problem, they can hire you. All right. Those are the 3 things you need to know about job search. But which of those 3 is the most important? You get jobs by talking to people. Okay. 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 Go. Yeah. I want to talk to you about 4 different kinds of interviews and how you can use these 4 different kinds of interviews to use a totally different way to find a job. See, most people apply for jobs by applying for posted openings and waiting to be selected and then interviewing for a known opening. You guys, it's not in the handouts. Nothing I've said so far is in these handouts. Okay, so the 4 types of interviews, the first 3 are things that have nothing to do with the posted opening, but they do increase in level of expertise that you're representing that you have. I'm going to say that again because it matters. I'm going to give you 3 types of interviews that have nothing to do with the posted opening, but they increase in the level of expertise that you're supposed to have to use them. All right, number 1, advice interview. It sounds exactly like what it is. It's super easy to get these. You just say to somebody, hey, I'm on the market. You're an important person. You're a successful person. You're in an industry I like. It doesn't matter what you say. Would you meet with me, take a look at my resume, give me any advice that comes to mind? I'm not applying for a position with you. I just want to know what your advice would be for me. This will only take a few minutes. We can meet for coffee. I can come to your office. We could do it by Skype. You guys always favor Skype over telephone calls, but do the best you can. That's an advice interview. People will take these if you have any connection with you at all. You went to the same school, go to the same church, live in the same neighborhood, used to date the same person, anything, okay? So that's advice interviews. What's the key phrase in that whole pitch? What's the key phrase? I'm not applying for a job with you. Okay? Now next is an informational interview. Informational interviews, you have to have some interest in a specific discipline or field because you're asking about what's it like to be in that field. So informational interview requires a little more focus. You don't just call random people up. You call people up that are in the field that you want to go into. So if they're in advertising and you want to be in advertising, that's an informational interview. If they're in private K-12 education and you want to be in private K-12 education, that's an informational interview. Now, informational interviews, the key phrase in the pitch to get them is what? I'm not applying for a position with you. I want your advice for me about this field. If you could tell me more about it, give me some information about it. Now, in your handouts, you will find some informational interview questions. So I'm not going to cover them in the verbal part of this. They're just, trust me, they're there. Don't look for them. Okay, so informational interviews had a rhythm and a focus and flow, and that's in there. I want to teach you how to talk about money, though, because it's fun. Don't ask people, what does this pay? What do you make? Ask them, what would this pay industry-wide typically? It's a very vague way of getting money figures out of people. That's why you can find out whether the people that you're trying to get information from are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or they're making $85,000 a year. I think especially for young people, it's important to find out who's making money. If nobody in the field is making money, then you don't want in that field. In my earliest possible career, I apprenticed myself to a dear friend who was a successful freelance writer. So I went to live, I did. He was a successful freelance writer. You know where I'm headed here. I was there about 4 weeks when I found out he was living on $12,000 a year. I looked at him and I said, I'm getting a job. So you got to find out what people are making. That's an informational interview. The third type is something that a more seasoned person can do. It's called a candidate in waiting interview. A candidate in waiting interview, you have to represent yourself as having a body of expertise to use this style of interview. And you are no longer denying that you're applying for a position with them. It's a little bit subtly different. Okay? You say to somebody, I would like to stop by, drop off my resume, put a face to a name. I know you're not hiring right now, but in case something opens up later, I want you to know what I can do. I'll be in and out of your office in a minute. Now, on this one, that's the key phrase. I'll be in and out of your office in a minute. So I'm going to say it again because it's important. Candidate in waiting, you're representing that you have expertise. You're a certain type of civil engineer. You're a certain type of software engineer. You're a certain type of K-12 French-speaking educator. I'd like to stop by, drop off my resume, put a face to a name, and answer any questions you might have. I'll be in and out of your office in less than a minute. I know you're not hiring, but if something opens up later, you'll think of me first. Now, the fourth type of interview is a standard, good old-fashioned interview for a job. Okay? This is our opening. What are your skills? Blah, blah, blah. There's tons of books on that. I'm not going to cover it right now. But you know, just trust me. There's ways to be good at that. I want you spending. If you'll spend more time on this other stuff, you can worry a lot less about how you're going to interview for a real job, because when you get there, you're going to be smooth. You're going to be debonair. You're going to be comfortable with yourself. The key is getting appointments. I watched a guy get a job that didn't speak English, and he got that job in 20 minutes. I was on Polk Street in San Francisco, and this guy walked up to me, and he stuck out his hand, and he said, "Excuse me, mister, do you have a job?" I said, "No." So I was curious what he was doing, and I realized almost immediately that he was looking for a job. He didn't ask me if I had a job. He was looking for a job. If you were well-dressed, he walked up and stuck out his hand, he blocked you, and said, "Excuse me, mister, do you have a job?" How did I know he didn't speak English? He walked right up to women, stuck out his hand, and said, "Excuse me, mister, do you have a job?" Okay? He did not even know what those words meant. Someone had taught him a sequence of sounds. And so I was so intrigued by what he was doing. I went into this place and bought a cigar, and I followed him like a half a block back. And he got a job in 25 minutes with this technique. Okay, why did he get a job? He was getting an appointment about every 2 minutes. He was getting an appointment. He was getting appointments like you wouldn't believe. If you get appointments, you'll get a job. If you don't get appointments, you will not get a job. So you must get in front of people, because you get jobs by talking to people. Those of you that have been hiding behind the internet, you got to stop it. This is going to hurt. It's going to feel unusual to you. And I encourage you to adopt this process. You're going to fail way more than you win, but that's what happens in the regular job market anyway. So is this guy pretty interesting, Mr. I love that guy. He was absolutely fascinating. I wish I had filmed him. He was doing such a great job. Okay, now, one of the things that happens in the hidden job market is that you turn up openings. So people will tell you about an opening, but you're the inside candidate. Inside candidates have an edge. The Stacy model have an edge over people that don't. Now, let me talk about after you're live with somebody and how you do that. After you're live with somebody, okay, I met you. Okay, I did the candidate in waiting thing. I did the advice interview. I did something. I met you. Okay. Now what do? You do a thing called occupy mental space. And I've asked tons of recruiters, how much is too much bugging and how much is not enough? And this is exactly what they say. If I hear from somebody every week, I start to get annoyed. But if I don't hear from them once a month, I forget who they are. So the magic number is less than once a week and more than once a month. So every 2 to 3 weeks, everybody in these hundreds of people you're now interacting with needs to hear from you. Now, I'm going to recommend that you alternate the way you contact them and you alternate the ways you interact with them. So if you have, like, somebody, I met this guy, I did the candidate in waiting thing. How much am I going to bug him? I'm going to bug him gently every 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm going to alternate modalities of contact. I'm going to leave a voice message. 3 weeks later, I'm going to send him something in the mail. 2 weeks later, I'm going to forward a tweet to him. Okay? Hey, here's this tweet. Thought you would like to be the first to see it. Your CFO is out at LaGuardia getting arrested right now. I hear there will be some openings in accounting. And then, for all of you young people, and by young people I mean everyone under 30, if you had learned to send business letters from anyone under 30 are so exotic that people will come out of their office and go find somebody. Hey, I got a letter from somebody that looks like they're 28. Look at this. They did it right too. Okay? So if you want to be exotic and you're a young person, send people stuff in the United States mail. They're just amazed by it. Make sure you do it right. Google format business letter. Because I tell you what you guys normally do is make something that looks like a cross between an old school memo and an email printed out. You're not doing it right. So do it right and send business. The United States Postal Service is still out there. They're still out there. So you send something. I'm still working on how you bug them. Now, you bug them every 2 to 3 weeks. Hey, still interested in your company. I know we haven't connected for 6 years, but I love you guys. Follow you all the time on the internet. Still want to work for you after 6 years. My favorite is to send them a calendar. Okay, you had this 1-minute meeting of the candidate in waiting, and you happen to remember that they said that they drive Porsche cars or they have a Weimaraner dog. All right, go down to the mall, buy a calendar of Porsche cars or Weimaraner dogs, and send it to them in the mail. Dear Bill, I remember that you had Weimaraner dogs. Here's a 12-month calendar full of Weimaraner dogs. Every month when you turn the calendar page over, remember that I want to work for you. And then on each page of the calendar, you write, Don still wants to work for you. Here's his number. Don still wants to work for you. Here's his number. Okay? Because that's kind of a low impact kind of thing to do, and it's got a little sense of humor to it, and you're getting in front of them every month. Now, my favorite of all times, though, was a candidate who wanted to work in commercial real estate in the state of California. And she made a list of 200 smallish commercial real estate consulting groups. So these are like 24 to 125 employees. They're kind of smallish. And she went to the websites of these 200 places, and she identified 2 emails off of those websites. That's 400 emails. And every 2 weeks, she wrote to them and said, I've updated my resume since we last had contact. Attached is the new version. Call me if anything comes to mind. I'm going to say that again because everyone says, oh, I don't have a network. You don't need a network. You need some gumption, okay? So this is 400 people that do not know her. And she writes to them every 2 weeks. I've updated my resume since we last had contact. The last contact they had, by the way, was when she emailed them 2 weeks ago with a resume. That's the only contact he ever had with any of them, okay? So I've updated my resume. Attached is a new version. Call me if anything comes to mind. Now, I don't let candidates tell lies. I'm a rambunctious guy, I'm an exaggerator, but I actually never let candidates tell lies. So I said, you can't say you changed your resume unless you're going to change your resume every time. She said, I've worked on this resume for at least 6 weeks. It's perfect. I'm not changing the resume. I said, you say you're changing it, you got to change it. So we made a compromise. Every 2 weeks, she put her middle initial in. 2 weeks later, she took her middle initial out. 2 weeks after that, she put her middle initial back in. And she was doing this by hand, literally sending 400 emails every 2 weeks, okay, by hand. There's programs to handle it, but she didn't use them. She did it by hand. And so people began to send her leads. She began to get a flow of leads from all these people. Hey, I don't remember meeting you. Must have been at a conference. Here's a job down in L.A. I heard about from a friend. She got a flow of leads coming into her like a river. And some of them would tell her stuff like, hey, you're just putting your middle initial in and out. And she would say, yeah, that's right, but I've been meaning to talk to you. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk to you. So the guy that hired her was a headhunter. He called her and said, you must be something. I got your resume from 6 different people today. So that's low tech. It's hidden job market. It's getting ahead of the curve. It's not hard to do. It doesn't require any resources. Okay? Now, I said something about being live, and I'm inviting you to bug people, and I'm telling you how often to do it, and I'm telling you that creativity matters, but in the end, doing matters more than creativity. Now let's talk about whether you're a candidate or not. Here you are, you're a candidate. Here you are, you're a candidate, so somebody calls you in. What's your name?
Taylor.
Again?
Taylor.
Taylor. Taylor, we don't like you a lot, okay? We like you a little bit. As a matter of fact, you're our 7th choice. We like 6 other people better than you. Now, when people hear this, most of them just go home and cry and say, well, I didn't get that one, blah, blah, blah. But not you, because you came to this workshop. You know that you are going to occupy that mental space and you're going to bug them gently. And you bug them gently until they either tell you to stop or bring you back in. Those are the only 2 things that can happen, okay? Telling you to stop looks like this. If you call here one more time, we're calling the police. Okay, got it, no problem, okay? Hey, what do they learn about you if you call them every day and you're nice and you're polite? What do they learn about you? You're persistent, they learn 2 more things about you. You're nice and you're polite, okay? So if you're persistent, nice, and polite, that's a pretty nice thing to know about somebody. I was just giving this lecture, and a young man raised his hand. He said, I wanted to work for the university. And he said, my grades weren't the best. I wasn't popular. I wasn't a big man on campus. But I called HR at the university every single day after school got out. And he said it took him till the middle of August to hire me. But I'm still working for them 3.5 years later. Okay? So that to my mind, is getting close to too much. I was sitting in my office one day. Do you guys, what I'm about to tell you is this. You're going to be more aggressive than you're comfortable with. But I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I can name that we're too aggressive. on about a hand and a half. You understand what I'm saying to you? You will be more aggressive than you are comfortable being, but you will not be too aggressive. Okay, too aggressive, people say, don't call her anymore, we're calling the police. That just doesn't, people don't do that. But I'm about to tell you about some people who did. Would you like to hear about them? My favorite was this guy who was in corporate security, and he was a cop, and he was trying to get into corporate security, and he looked up the home addresses of CEOs all over the San Francisco Bay Area, and he would go to their house, and he would put his resume like in their backyard, or he'd put it under their car windshield wipers, or he would wad it up and put it between the glass door and the front door, and he would write on it stuff like, if the CEO's name was Robert, he would say, Bob, this is the guy I was telling you about, and then throw it in his yard. I mean, he was creepy, weird, and aggressive. He got a job in record flat time, okay? He got a job in, I think, like 3 weeks, which is an executive placement extraordinarily fast. He also told me 2 things I never forgot. How to identify drug dealers who work for you, and how to identify embezzlers who work for you. I said, how do you do that? He said, it's super easy. Embezzlers never take their vacation, and drug dealers don't cash their paychecks. So all you got to do is build a list of people who don't take their vacation, people who don't cash their paychecks, and investigate them. They're all criminals. I didn't forget that. I never hired another bookkeeper that wouldn't take vacation. Oh, you don't want your vacation? Find another job. Oh, never mind. And this other one was too aggressive. I'm in my office minding my own business, and the phone rang, and I always answer my phone with my name. So I picked up the phone and said, Don Escher. And someone very tentatively said, is this Don Escher? I said, yeah. And she got her voice a little bit, and she said, are you the guy that teaches grad students around the country how to find jobs and undergrads? And I said, yes. And I'm puffing up now because I have a huge ego, and I'm thinking, this is me. And then her whole mood changed, and she got dark and mean, and she said, did you actually tell a student to call us 100 times? I said, I don't know, maybe. And then she said, in the same day? So this is what happened. Her phone was ringing off the hook, right? So she's walking by her desk in a cubicle farm, and her phone's ringing. And she said, wow, my phone's ringing a lot today. And her cubicle farm mate said, yeah, and it's all the same number, too. So she goes over and looks at the call counter, same number, over and over and over and over and over again. And right at that moment, the phone rang. And it was that number. And she picked up the phone, and she yelled into the phone, who told you to call us like this? And the student said, Don Escher. Now I'm going to tell you about the perfectly right amount of aggressive. A guy came into my office and said, I want to work for Charles Schwab. And in my office, you could actually see Charles Schwab's headquarters by going over to the window and looking like this, okay? I said, well, I can get you a job at Charles Schwab. He said, really? I said, yeah, I can do it. You know, I mean, if you're a reasonable guy and you don't have a bad background, I can get you a job at Charles Schwab. He said, I've been trying to get on there as a junior in college, and they never even wrote me back, nothing. I said, I can do it, but you have to do what I say. And he said, I'm going to do it, whatever you say. So I said, I want you down there tomorrow at 6 in the morning, because the market's open at 6:30, West Coast time. And I said, I want you to wear a suit, and I want you to take this letter and this resume down there and your cell phone, and I want you, anybody that's dressed nicely, that looks like an executive, you thrust this into their hands, okay? I mean, as aggressive as you need to be to get them to take it. And here's what it said. Dear Charles Schwab executive, I admire Charles Schwab. I think it's the nicest company in the whole United States. I think it's creating a generation of wealth for the middle class. I admire your business model of low-cost transactions. It would mean everything in the world to me to work at Charles Schwab. After you get up to your office, I am still down here on the sidewalk, holding my cell phone, waiting for you to call. So he comes in about 8:30 on the first day, and he said, Don, nobody called me. I said, you thought they'd do it on the first day? And he said, well, yeah. I said, no, you got to do this day after day. So he did it the next day, handing out these resumes. Third day, he said it was about 7 o'clock, his phone rings, and he picks it up. He said, hello. And the guy said, are you really still downstairs? He said, yes, I am, and I still want to work for Charles Schwab. And the guy said, okay, go to this security guard, give my name, he'll give you a guest pass, come up to the 12th floor, and I'll talk to you. And I just got an email from that guy this year. He is now a vice president with Charles Schwab. Okay, less than 10 years to VP from Stanford. on the street corner down there. Okay, that's the right amount of aggressive. You're going to have to hurt yourself a little bit to do this right. But being unemployed hurts too. And so you know those people that wear those goofy signs that say, 3 kids, CPA, call me today, here's my resume? I've been collecting those news articles for 20 years. Did you know those people always get jobs? They always get jobs. Why? They just got a tremendous amount of exposure because they're usually on the evening news, you know. Here's the evening news. Here's this guy's under this underpass. 3 kids, you know, got to get back to work. They're doing something unusual and they're getting lots of exposure and lots of appointments. That's why they get jobs. So I'm still working on you. Your 7th choice. But you don't fade away because you know what happens to the other people. So let's take a look. Here's the other people. So here you are, sitting down here thinking, I'm never going to get hired. I'm 7th choice. Well, let's take a look at what happened. These are actual hiring events. So the first choice person is actually a superstar. And she declines because she got 4 offers. Statistically, you should never worry about the first choice person. They get multiple offers. So they have a minimum of less than 50% chance of taking this job that you want. So they're out. Second choice person, and any time you have job search, people are really good at first interviews, but they're not so good at second interviews. So they get really slick for that first interview, and you have a second interview, and you take them to lunch, and they order wine, and they wipe their face on their tie, and then they tell an ethnic joke. So they're out, okay? So failed second interview. Okay, the third choice person, everything's going well, but then, you know, the spouse pops up and says, I'm not moving there, I'm not going to go with you. Spouse won't move. That's the third choice person. And then the fourth choice person, what do we know about her? We know something about her. She's a liar. That's right. She's a liar and we caught her, okay? So she's out. And then every time someone comes up to be the first choice, it takes 10 days, 2 weeks, sometimes even a month. What happened to number 5? He's got a job, okay? So he's got a job, okay? And then number 6, you guys remember what I'm about to say. Number 6 failed the drug test. Knew it was coming and failed it anyway. You guys, if you can't pass a drug test, you're not smart enough to be doing drugs, okay? There are ways to pass those things. If you can't do it, you should not be doing it, okay? So they failed the drug test. They're high, that's why that looks like this. And who gets the job? Ta-da, Taylor gets the job. If you're ever a candidate, gently nudge, nudge, continuing interest, love you guys, still want to hear if this is possible. Literally for weeks and weeks, you guys, literally for weeks and weeks. I recently worked with a guy, it was 4 months from introduction to contract. 4 months. And during that whole time, all he had to do to lose that opportunity is get frustrated. But he didn't. He just stayed in there and waited it out, and he was the guy they hired. Now, I want to encourage you to use a completely different model. This material is in a book of mine called Cracking the Hidden Job Market. I want you to use these 4 types of interviews, 3 of which do not require posted opening. I want you to use Hoovers and LinkedIn to build lists. I want you to have 100 leads. And I want you to get out there and start talking to people. Thank you very much for your attention tonight. Thank you. Now, I have some really excellent stuff in those handouts, which we never looked at.
So this is Don, 7th year, speaking on campus, and we've never gotten past slide 2. So.
I didn't do 1 today. I never did 1.
So if anyone did not get a handout or realized we ran out in the last 5 minutes, you can email me. By the way, my name is Jason Eckert, and I'm our Director of Career Services. We really appreciate our alumni and our students coming to tonight's workshop. And as you see, we have some refreshments, compliments of the Alumni Association in the lobby here at Humanities. I want to really thank all of our alumni for being here tonight, and Ashley Hessler.
And the tomorrow thing. The tomorrow thing.
What time is it?
I don't know.
We also have a program for alumni tomorrow night
7.
at 7 o'clock over in the River campus entitled 20s Looking to 30.
Yep, 20s Looking at 30.
And you're welcome to come to that. You can stop by and ask Ashley about signing up for that. It's over on the River campus, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. For any alums looking to advance your career and discuss networking more in depth. For all of you in the room tonight, I'm almost done, I promise. The back of your handout has a schedule. This happens to be graduate school preparation week on our campus. And if you are considering applying to graduate school now or in the future, including the alumni in the room, you're welcome to all of our programs this week. There are events every day that are being offered, especially Thursday night. We have a graduate school fair from 5 to 7 in the Recplex Mac Gym. And there are about 25 schools coming, including UD, by the way, to talk about their grad programs, and you can apply for those. For our alumni in the room, welcome home. We do serve you free of charge. For life, if I can help you with any career topics, let me know. And let's give one final great big fly round of applause for Mr. Don Atkins.
Thank you, guys. Wow, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy the refreshments and please drive safely.
Excellent job.
That was fun. That was fun.
You gotta get turned out.
So I'm pleased.
Yeah. Shoot.
Good. I'll let you network and we'll talk at the end.
All right.
I'll take that.
We'll just put it on that table.
Yep.
Oh.